This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Hello, fellow gamers! Welcome back to the Video Gamers Podcast. It is Thursday, so you know what that means. We are going to be talking about recent gaming news over the last week. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss any episodes, and if you like what we do and want to help support the show, we do rely on listeners to sign up through Patreon to help pay the bills. Starts at $5 a month. You'll get some perks like bonus Squadcast episodes, a thank you on the show, and more. Go check it out at multiplayersquad.com. We would also love if you'd rate the show 5 stars, leave a written review in Apple Podcasts, and tell a friend about the show. I am your host, Paul, and joining me, you might just once again find him connecting beat hits by chaining attacks in time with the music of the game. It's Josh.
Oh boy, what the people don't know is I have absolutely zero rhythm. So these rhythm games, not the best for me.
But you do like them.
I do like them. I'm just not very good at them, man.
I hear you. Well, we've got one of the best ones of the bunch getting saved, which will be fun to talk about in a minute. And then joining Josh and me, he might once again find himself waking up to Ms. McFarlane helping her with jobs around the farm, but this time on PC. It's Ryan. I think you're muted.
Dang it,
I am muted.
Yeah, right on the
muted.
intro.
And I have to leave that in too. So
Yep, you
that'll be
do.
fun.
Well, do you want to repeat what you were saying, Ryan?
Oh, I just said stupid is the word we use around here. And I guess that lines up so well right now. Dang it.
Very fitting. Oh, Ryan and I are always down for some Red Dead talk. It's going to be fun. All right, so guys, talking about recent gaming news, the biggest news of this week is the fact that Black Myth Wukong will have released when this podcast releases. Josh is happier than a pig in mud.
You darn right.
Unfortunately for this episode, we are recording right before the game releases, so we haven't played it yet, but we are going to do a full deep dive. However, the reviews are in, and I gotta say, I'm a little shocked that the ratings are as low as they are. I was really hoping for a 90 or higher on Metacritic. I think we all kind of agreed Black Myth Wukong was like the favorite for Game of the Year up to this point. I have watched multiple video reviews. I know you guys have been checking it out as well. It sounds like the game has an awful lot going for it as far as like the boss fights, the graphics, a lot of the gameplay, but it does sound like it's kind of riddled with technical issues, and the story seems pretty underwhelming from what I've seen. Josh, you were the most excited out of all three of us. Still are. Is this game more likely to be Whack Myth Wukong or Crack Myth Wukong?
I'm assuming that crack is the good one, so I'm still saying it's Crack Myth Wukong,
Yes.
even though cracks don't do crack, people. Okay, crack's bad. But I also know that's whack is even worse. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because this is a classic example of if you read the reviews, everybody seems to really enjoy the game. They just complained that it is very buggy, that it has some crashes and some technical issues. So we have said many times, hey, that can really ruin a game. If it's bad enough, it can truly bring a game down and ruin the experience. I am ever the optimist, and so I choose to look at all of these people saying this game is awesome, it's a ton of fun. Maybe the story doesn't make sense, but dude, it's like, I mean, come on, man. I'm a Dark Souls, Elden Ring fan. I don't care about no story when it comes to those kind of games. You know, and so I am optimistic that when playing this, if I am not plagued with crashes and bugs, that I'm going to have a much better time than the review scores might indicate. Because again, a lot of people have said, "Woo, this game's a lot of fun, man," and that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, hopefully it's just not like Star Wars with Paul for you.
Oh, right. Look at the birds, and it would crash.
Don't look
every
at the birds,
time.
Paul.
Don't look at the birds.
Or like the Callisto Protocol, right? Like that's a game that was just unplayable for us.
Yeah, I know. And so I have the hope that, a patch coming, day one fixes some of the technical issues. We all have very good computers, so maybe that's not quite such an issue for us. I am still very optimistic. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. I will say I am a little surprised that the review scores are not higher, but we're going to find out. Like you said, Paul, we're doing a full deep dive on this, which we are trying to get out very quickly since we know people will want to hear our thoughts on it. So you'll get it right here as soon as we can get it out to you.
We've got something like 9 days to play as much as we can, and it's about a 40-hour game, so we're going to have to crack out as best as we can.
I prepped my wife this morning, and I literally told her, I said, baby, I'm out of town for 3 days for my job. Ryan is going to be out of town for 4 or 5 days. And I told her, I said, I have to play this game. When I am back, you may not see me because I'm going to be just grinding this game so that we can talk about it.
I will say that IGN did mention having a lot of crashes and issues, even with a 4090 GPU. I know that GameRanks, I watched there, like what you should know about Black Myth Wukong. And the one thing that they said, which would drive me wild, is that they would finally get a boss to where they're almost going to kill them, and then it would crash to desktop. And I was like, ooh, if this game does that a lot, where like you fought this boss 28 times and now you're like 3 hits away from beating them and it crashes, that's going to make a lot of people
that would
rage.
Be really bad.
That's like a 2-point deduction right there.
That would be bad.
That's rage quit territory 100%.
Yeah. So the fact that the game has an 82 on Metacritic, that's pretty mid, guys. Do you think that takes this game out of Game of the Year territory, or do you think it's still got a puncher's chance?
I think it has a chance because, again, if you look at these, everybody said I had fun. The combat is spectacular. The boss fights are spectacular. The world is spectacular. The main complaints are I don't understand the story, and the game crashed on me, or the audio cut out, or I fell through the floor. So yes, those things are infuriating. And again, those can really tank the reception of a game, but it tells me that there's something quite good underlying there that I am excited for. So I'm going to say, I think it still could be in contention. They just need to get these big issues fixed quickly.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
I think there will be a chance for it, but man, the closer we get, the more I'm liking Space Marine 2.
I know, right?
Dang it! Because it's like, this was one of my most hyped games of the year.
Yeah.
I remember the very first time I saw the trailer for Black Myth Wukong, I was like, yo, this game looks good, man. And then now it's kind of like, I'm still really excited, but I'm kind of like, well, I mean, there's always Space Marine 2.
I'm a little bummed that it's a silent protagonist also. I was like, oh, that's a little boring.
Speak Chinese, Paul.
I we'll see. The story is already, we know, not really going to be very strong. I will say that I looked back at the Game of the Year winners for the Game Awards, and 8 out of the last 9 did have a Metacritic score of 90 or higher. It's stuff like Baldur's Gate 3, 96, Elden Ring, 96, It Takes Two, 88, Last of Us 2, 93, Sekiro, 90, God of War, 94, Breath of the Wild, 97. So it's very unlikely, I would say, that we see a game get an 82 on Metacritic and win Game of the Year, but it's always possible. But it's been a little bit of a weird year. I think maybe like Final Fantasy VII's probably got a shot. Maybe even something like Dragon's Dogma 2. I mean, who knows at this point? It's been a weird year for games.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be Helldivers 2, even though I think all of us might actually end up naming that the Game of the Year when it's all said and done. But we'll have to wait and see this last stretch. All right, so moving on to our next story here. So after such a long time with no delays, it seems like this is now an epidemic. Every week now, we've got several delays to talk about. This week, we saw 2 games get pushed back. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which we have talked about a lot. That's the 15th century action RPG. That has been pushed back now. Also, Terminator Survivors, which is an open world survival game with up to 4-player co-op. I don't think we've talked about that on the show, although I know we shared it internally in our shared doc. That also got pushed. Both of those games are now coming out in 2025. What are your guys' thoughts?
It's like Oprah's taking over.
Yeah,
you get a delay. You get a delay. You get a delay. I just don't get to me, I don't understand most of the times. I'm sure these developers and the project managers and stuff have all been doing this for a very long time. How are you so far off of your planning and your foresight and on even giving yourself a cushion before you kind of announce a timeline or a date for projected, release, to where you just keep having to have these delays? That's the part, again, I'm not a developer, I'm not in this industry, but I don't understand not being able to predict these a little bit more accurately, and we're seeing it all over all these games all the time. So I don't know, I don't get it.
I think I can tell you why.
Why?
No press is bad press. It's
That's
free
true.
publicity for the game. If you have a reveal release date trailer, guess what? You're on Eurogamer and IGN and Kotaku and all this stuff. And then the game gets pushed, and guess what? You get new articles written about your game. I part of me wonders if it's strategic, because pushing a game back, maybe you get a little bit of ill will, but all the free publicity that comes with it, I feel like it's got to be a net advantage. And because we've always said, like, why do they just don't give a release window? Wait until you're 3 months out, like Nintendo does, and say, hey, we've got this game and it's coming out in 3 months. But I have a feeling it's a business move.
So here's the kicker for me on this one. Avowed, which was one of our most anticipated games for this year, and we kind of said, hey, if there's a game that has a chance at Game of the Year, Avowed looks like it might be it, got delayed to February 18th of 2025, right? And they just said, hey, we want to give people time. There's a lot of games coming out. We're just going to delay ours. It's ready to go, but we're just, we're giving gamers some time to play their backlog. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is very high on my hype meter. And they finally said, you know what? We're going to have to delay our game. They delayed it to February 11th. It's 1 week before Avowed comes out.
They're all pushed into the same time.
What are you doing, man? And not only that, okay, can you imagine being the Avowed devs where you were like, what the heck, guys?
Yeah,
like 1 week before our game? Like, that's the risk you take, right? When you're the first one to say, hey, we're going to delay, and you pick a date, somebody else is going to come along and say, we get to release the week before you now. Like, what the heck, man? Come on, dude. 1 week apart. You couldn't have picked a better date than that.
It's so funny. And we've made jokes like this in the past. I don't remember what it was. Was it, Prince of Persia? Didn't they delay because of another game, but then that game got delayed also? And so we're like, well, now people are delaying over other games, and they're all just ending up being delayed anyway. But yeah, it is a very funny coincidence that now it's looking like February 2025 might end up a little bit jam-logged anyway.
Oh my goodness. Like, I'm very hyped for both of those games. I cannot wait to play them both. But like, releasing an epic RPG that's probably a 100-hour game 1 week before another epic RPG that's probably a 100-hour game, it's like, come on, man. Like,
Avowed just needs to now go, oh, we've made some great progress. We're going to bump it up 2 weeks. And then they go to the
February
week before
2nd, right? Yeah, that's where you got to start. Like, then you get into this like release wars thing.
That would be a baller move. I will say the delay of Terminator is less surprising because we still have not seen any gameplay. So even though this game got announced quite a while ago, the fact that we've seen nothing tells me it must be in fairly bad shape still to push it back. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to see a fantastic Terminator game, especially up to 4-player co-op. So I still have hopes for it. I just want to see more. I want to know what they're actually developing on it.
Yeah, this is the kind of delay where I get worried. Like Kingdom Come 2 and Avowed and, some of these other games, Stalker 2, saying, hey, we're going to delay it. I'm not worried about those delays at all. Like, I feel like that's a good thing. This, when you don't have much to show off on a game and you've been developing it for a while, and then you say, hey, by the way, we're going to delay something, that's where I start going like, what's going wrong? At that point. So it definitely a different vibe between those two delays, or those two games and why they got delayed for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Not all delays are created equal.
Yeah.
Well, especially in the case of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, they were already basically just remaking the first one, and we've seen a ton of video footage, and it's very promising. I still am worried that the melee combat won't hit with all three of us. That's the one thing. Everyone says it either works for you or it completely kills the game. So I think a lot of it's going to hinge on that. But man, if that game doesn't look fun, I'm really looking forward to testing it out eventually. Yeah, and Terminator hopefully will have something to offer as well. All right, well, let's go ahead and take a short break, and we'll be right back.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
If you're an athlete, you know the greatest motivator of all is the fear of letting your teammates down. After all, a team is only as good as its weakest link. So you owe it to those wearing the same jersey as you to be your best every time you step on the field. That's why there's no vape in team. When you vape, you can expose your lungs to toxic chemicals that can damage your lungs. If you're a step behind, the team's a step behind. Brought to you by The Real Cost and the FDA.
All right, moving on to our next story here. Now, it hasn't been terribly long since we talked about how Microsoft was closing a whole bunch of studios. They were looking to cut costs. We talked about how that included shutting down Arcane Austin, who made Redfall, also Alpha Dog Games, who made Mighty Doom. And I think what shocked us the most, and for most people, they were shocked at the fact that Tango Gameworks was getting axed as well. And they are the people who made Ghostwire Tokyo. They made some pretty big hits with The Evil Withins and Hi-Fi Rush, which was a super surprise hit last year. Well, we got news here this week that Krafton, the publisher of PUBG, they have stepped in to acquire the studio, and they've also said that they're going to continue developing Hi-Fi Rush IP, which means we're going to be getting sequels, spin-offs, whatever it might be. We're going to get more of it, which I think is a great thing. I'm really glad to see that this poor gaming studio that was actually pumping out great games and got surprised laid off, at least they get some second life here. I think this is a really good, wholesome story that we get to cover.
Yeah. Have either of you played Hi-Fi Rush? I don't think I'm the only one, right?
I've not. I've only watched video of it.
Yeah,
okay.
Same.
So this game came out of the blue. It was announced at, I don't know, last year's Gamescom or something like that. And they basically just said, here's this game. Oh, by the way, it's available now. You can actually play this right now. And the world lost their minds. And the game was fantastic. Dude, Hi-Fi Rush is a great video game. And then it got axed. The studio got axed and everybody went, what the heck, dude? This studio made a fantastic video game that was beloved by just about everybody. It got phenomenal reviews. This is one of the coolest things to happen in gaming in a while. And then Microsoft went, yeah, we're just going to axe that studio. And everybody went what?
Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why? Shouldn't you be rewarding these guys? So kudos to Krafton for stepping in and saying, nah, this is a good development team. These people obviously have talent. They obviously know what they're doing, and we're gonna pick it up. We're also picking up the IP because I want to see more Hi-Fi Rush, dude. This is the kind of game that everybody enjoys playing, whether you've played it or not. You play it and then you go, dude, this game's great. And so that's the kind of stuff that I want to see more of. Not more live service games that fail and flop because people don't know what they're doing and things like that. Reward these studios, man. So I have to give Krafton credit in this regard. Thank you for doing this. I hope that it pays off for you because ultimately I know, they want to make money and that's what they're hoping for. But at least they're giving this franchise and this developer another shot at it, at least.
Yeah, it's not that, and it's not like you said, they created this hit, then they got the axe. So to have Krafton come in and pick them up, probably for pennies on the dollar, I'm sure they got a great deal, and then they can come and financially back them and reward them for what they created. it's one of those things we always talk about delays and layoffs and all this stuff. It's cool to see something neat happen like this, where it's a good story, in the industry, that seem to be more and more rare.
Yeah, because we talked a lot about how it's not just good enough to make good games. Like, you also have to be kind of lucky. And in the case of Tango Gameworks, they just had the bad luck of being under this umbrella where they were the ones that got cut. I mean, they've only made 5 games, and like 3 of them sold millions of copies between Evil Within, Evil Within 2, Hi-Fi Rush. So I'm really glad to see them get, saved here by Krafton. All right, and then moving on to our last story of the week. So we are now a couple years in of there being rumors about bringing Red Dead Redemption 1 to PC. And kind of famously, Red Dead 1's code was a horrendous mess. A lot of people said we'll never see it on PC, but there have been hints here and there where we thought maybe a port was on its way. And now it does seem far more likely that we're going to get an announcement soon that it's coming to PC. There is a PlayStation Store page that has a description of Red Dead 1, and it reads, "Experience the epic Western adventures that defined a generation, now on PC for the first time ever." So this really sounds like there's an awful lot of smoke here, and I think we're probably getting an announcement soon.
This would be fantastic because I have a confession, guys. I never played Red Dead 1.
Which is wild. It's so good.
It's not my fault, man. I was poor. I couldn't afford a PlayStation 3?
1.
I don't know when this game came out, man.
It's from the 90s.
But I will say, everybody raves about Red Dead Redemption 2. It's the prequel to Red Dead 1. I kind of want to know what happens. I know the general story of stuff, but to be able to play that game on PC, which I'm sure if they do this, they're probably going to remaster it and really do it up. That would be amazing. But it's always been out of contention because, like you said, Paul, people have dug into this and they've always said, dude, we cannot reuse this code. We would have to rewrite this entire game from scratch. Why do that? The game's already been out. It's old. People have played it. And it's not everybody, man. I'm one of those people where I would absolutely get very excited to get my hands on this and be able to play it.
So, Ryan, I couldn't remember. Did you and I ever play Red Dead 1 together? I know we played Red Dead Revolver, which a lot of people don't even know exists. And we loved that game. We were on board with this. But we did play Red Dead 1?
Yeah, Red Dead 1, because Red Dead 1, you could skin the horses, right?
Oh,
do you remember that?
I think you're right.
I remember skinning the horses, and then I think my mom or something was mortified. She's like, "Oh my god!"
I mean, you and I both love Red Dead 1 also, right? I mean, Red Dead 2 is a better game, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
But Red Dead 1 is fantastic. I mean, it laid all the groundwork. I mean, having the open cowboy world, all the little choices you get to make on the quests and getting to see where things lay out. And just having John Marston for a whole game is a lot of fun. I think he's a really fun character. I will say it's a little bit of a bummer that it's not a complete remake. I would have loved to see them remake this game with Red Dead 2's engine.
Oh my goodness.
It does. That would be incredible. Yeah. That and I know that's too big of an ask. We're not getting that. It does sound like they are just porting the PS4 remaster that just came out not long ago. It kind of sounds like they're just porting that, but we'll be able to bump up resolution and frame rate. For me, that's enough. I'll buy it for that. It's been such a long time since I've experienced it, so I'm really excited. I cannot wait to jump back into this one.
Is it too much to ask though? It's not like Rockstar doesn't have the money, and it's not like they can't have. They don't have the staff. And the game, all the original codes, so the story, everything is there. Why not just remake it in the updated engine and make a buttload of money? They know anyone that has played it will buy it again. Anyone who loves Red Dead 2 will buy it. Anyone who hasn't played Red Dead 1 will most likely still buy it. So, I mean, I don't see why, other than just not wanting to deal with it, why they wouldn't do that.
Well, are you going to buy this one?
Yes. But
so am I.
What are they going to charge? Are they going to charge $70 for this, just porting it to PC like that?
I bet it'll be $50. That's my guess.
Oof,
$50.
That's still a hefty price for a port. You know,
Yeah.
Here's my thing, right? I mean, Red Dead 2, one of the greatest games ever made. We all agree on that. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we don't agree on that, but so here's the thing, like somebody like me, I get this PC port. I can finally play Red Dead. Maybe it's not remastered, so the graphics are kind of oldish still, kind of thing. But it's like there's the risk that for somebody like me, I pick this up and then I go, but this isn't nearly as good as Red Dead Redemption 2. So I feel like I've taken a step back, in that regard. Like when you played the first one and then you got to play Red Dead 2, you can go, oh my goodness, like look what they did, man. This is a masterpiece. But going backwards is a lot harder sometimes, It
is harder, but you have the story. So like for me and Ryan, it was so jarring to play Red Dead 1 and it start out where they're like, John, you got to go hunt down your old gang mates. And we're like, what? Okay, I don't, why? What? Who? Were we on bad terms? What's going on? And then you're yelling out to Bill Williamson and that name doesn't mean anything to you the first time you play it. And then Bill like shoots you and leaves you for dead. Like that's how Red Dead 1 opens. And it was so interesting to jump right in the middle of this story and then years later get to go back and see the early days of the gang. It is funny to go the other way, but for you, Josh, it is kind of like getting a new sequel, which might even be more exciting where you get to see, okay, I saw how Dutch led us astray. I got to kill Micah. I had all this satisfaction. Now I get to see where the story goes next. Because it is the end of the cowboy era. So you get to see, all right, here's John's story all the way up to like 1910 or whatever when the game ends. So maybe the story is also a pull, if not the graphics.
The fact that Red Dead 2 is the prequel to this would absolutely help out in that situation because I am going to feel like I'm just playing a slightly more janky continuation.
Yeah, like a budget sequel.
Right, yeah, like a budget, like, hey, let's tie this story up. But I mean, everybody says the game's really good. So, I mean, obviously it's got something going for it. But yeah, you're right in that regard. Like being able to just continue on and know, what happened prior to that would be very helpful for somebody like me that never got to play Red Dead 1.
Yeah, and that's what part. I mean, I love after Red Dead 2 when you get to play in those areas that are from Red Dead 1 when you go down to Mexico and stuff, and you're going to all these different gang hideouts. And you're like, I remember these places. It definitely doesn't look the same. The graphics are a lot better, but yeah, I'm stoked. I'm very excited.
I'm a little bummed that Josh has had the end of Red Dead 1 ruined because I've talked about it multiple times on this show, but it is a very affecting ending of that entry as well. So if the end of Red Dead 2 did something for you, the end of Red Dead 1 will as well. So the story is really fun. And I love the relationship between John and his wife and how they're very, hot and cold in how they deal with each other. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. And then Ryan, I know you kind of wanted to mention a little bit of an update to Astrobot that you noticed.
Oh, yes. I saw. Actually, I think it's from maybe a month ago or a couple weeks. Me and my son booted it up today just for some pre-Astrobot hype. And there's a new update where they put a bunch of bots and a bunch of new artifacts in the game. So if you're wanting to get ready for the release soon, hop in there, kind of get your platformer skills dialed back in. I hopped in this morning and it was right away. It was a lot of fun. Just getting in there and doing kind of the thing again. It's crazy how much just a silly little game like that is so enjoyable.
Astrobot is also really high up on my hype list.
It's really high on my list too, guys. I was just going to say the fact that I've never played Astro's Playground, because that's what came with the PS5, right?
Correct,
Wasn't that the little showcase PS5 thing that they did?
Yeah.
It was basically a tutorial for the controller, which is so wild.
Right,
yeah.
right. And so it's like somebody like me, where I've never even dabbled in Astro's Playground, but I hear really fun things about it. And then the gameplay footage that we saw for Astrobot blew me away. I mean, it blew us all away. You can go back and listen to that episode when we came out and we were like, oh my gosh, we got to talk about this game. Like, it comes out September 6th, man.
Yep.
Like, the only reason that I think we're not like jumping out of our seats for this is it's right in the middle of freaking Black Myth Wukong, Star Wars Outlaw, and Space Marine 2.
Yep.
And it's like, well, those are pretty huge games, but I think all of us have said, like, I'm probably going to play this game on my own. Like because I want to play. I'm borrowing somebody's PS5 to play this at some point because this game just looks incredible. It looks like the perfect throwback to like the arcade 3D platformers of old with new awesome mechanics and, like graphics and boss fights and all this stuff. It looks like it's got a little bit of everything. Like, I think this game looks great. Like, we're talking about game of the year possibilities. Dude, Astrobot could wind up being a sneaky game of the year contender if the game is anything like what we saw from the trailers.
Well, talking about the truncated timeline, you've got 9 days to beat Black Myth Wukong before Star Wars Outlaws, and then you've got 7 days to beat Star Wars before Astrobot, and then you've got 3 days to beat Astrobot before you get Space Marine 2, and then you've got 10 days to beat Space Marine 2 before God of War Ragnarok on PC. So, my goodness, we are going to be busy here for the next couple months.
I got to go apologize to my family, guys.
Yeah. You're just going to lock yourself in the office for the next month.
I just need a cot. I'm going to put a cot in here. I'm going to get a little mini fridge.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, that wraps everything up here for This Week in Gaming. Please make sure to follow the pod so that way nothing passes you by, and go check out support options for those bonus episodes and everything else at multiplayersquad.com. Also, Josh runs our socials, and we want to give him something to do. So go say hello to him there or troll him on socials, whatever you want to do. You can find us everywhere at Video Gamers Pod. Thanks for listening, and until next time, happy gaming.
See ya.
All right. See you, everybody.